So, before I get underway with my professional, serious introduction, I just want to say I always love it when our speakers dance along to the groovy intro. So, thank you, Sam, for doing that. Always makes my day. My name is Jesse Hildebrand. Welcome in, everyone, to another very exciting Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants broadcast. So many of you are new to us today. And so, if this is your first time ever joining us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world, featuring just the coolest scientists and explorers planet Earth has to offer. Now, everything we do goes to our YouTube channel. So if you want to check out this program in like 3 weeks or 3 years, or like 4,000 other shows we've done with some awesome people, you can head to the YouTube channel and do just that. There is so much to explore and discover. But of all days, I'm so happy you're catching us today because we are right smack dab in the middle, number 5 of 10 in our epic If Then, She Can Ambassadors of Conservation series. Now, If Then is the greatest campaign of all time, showcasing the best women in science, technology, engineering, and math. We have partnered with them for years in some really incredible series. And in the lead up to the World Conservation Congress, coming in just 2 weeks in Abu Dhabi, bringing together all the nature nerds in the world to make the world a better place, we wanted to feature 10 incredible ambassadors working to understand and save our natural planet all week long. So please do check out the full series. We've got 2 more programs back to back right after this. There's a lot of really good stuff on the go. And of all people, I'm really excited you're here for it, Dr. Sam Wynns. She is with the Ecologic Institute. She's joining us today at the Cabrillo National Monument in lovely San Diego in the United States. And she's going to be talking about who owns national parks. You do. National parks are some of my favorite places I've ever had the chance to visit, both in Canada, the United States, and internationally. And I hope we're going to learn a lot today, have some fun, and get excited together. But without further ado, thank you so much, Sam, for joining us, and welcome back to the broadcast.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me here today.
It is such a sunny, beautiful day there. We've been really lucky with all our outdoor programs so far. I hope you don't melt too much, but it's really pleasing to have you outside.
Yeah, it's beautiful here, as you can see from my camera. Let's give it a little panoramic here.
Ooh, I'll bring it back full screen.
I am at Cabrillo National Monument right now, and that is the Great Pacific Ocean behind me. Far in the distance, kind of through the clouds, because we have a little bit of morning fog, you can see the city of San Diego. This is San Diego Bay here. And then, of course, some infrastructure, some buildings, and lots of our native plants here behind me. I figured we couldn't zoom in live here from Cabrillo without having this epic view that we get to look out at our office every day.
Pretty exciting. Now, I know in this talk you have a bunch of questions for our audience, so I will note if you're on YouTube or StreamYard, get your fingers ready at the chat. We're going to be asking you a lot of questions before you ask Sam some questions. So without further ado, I'm going to zip it. Take us away.
All right, everybody. Well, as Jesse said, my name is Sam Wynns, and I am what we call a conservation biologist who works in and for the national park system and other public lands. Jesse, can you hit the little arrow button? Perfect. There's me out in the field doing a lot of that conservation work. But I just gave you a whole bunch of information about my title here. So let's unpack it a little bit. Let's break it down. Here comes my first question being lobbed your way. What is a conservation biologist? Ooh. And if you need to, you can always break it into 2 different parts. You can start with biologist and then get to conservation if that's easier.
All right, let's see.
Biologist.
Again, chat folks, Miss Kirk's class, our Agincourt virtual grade 8s, Miss Maxwell's class, DeWitt Middle School. If you guys want to chime in the chat, we'd love to hear from you. So we have saving animals. We've got animals. So yes, biologist is working with animals. Maybe some of these pictures help give it away. Saving animals is actually a really good answer, Sam. So
it sure is.
From there.
That's right. So a biologist, right, is a scientist that studies life. Bio means life, right? So life from the most microscopic bacteria all the way up to the world's largest organism, the blue whale, and ecosystems where they live and everything in between, right? And a conservation biologist is a specific type of biologist that is working on preserving and protecting or conserving that life, right? So the work that I do here at Cabrillo National Monument is about studying everything that lives here, all the plants and animals that live here, so that we can do a good job of preserving and protecting them. Because guess what? We can't protect what we don't know about, right? So we first need to study it in order to do a good job of conserving it. But I mentioned something else a second ago, that I also work at national parks. I might have mentioned the National Park Service or National Park System. What are national parks? Who'd like to take a stab at that question?
DeWitt Middle School, I can come to you guys live if you'd like. Do you want to say what you think national parks are?
Yeah!
Yeah, what are they? Tell us. I love the energy. What do you think national parks are?
National parks. What are they? Oh, national Yosemite. This one. I see them. Yellowstone.
So we're naming some national parks. We got Yellowstone.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Jesse, why don't we go to the next slide, in fact?
Let's do that. All right, let's keep talking about it. Oh, there we are. Perfect.
That sounds great. Yes, you named two of the national parks that are actually up on this screen. So there's actually 433 units in the national park system, and that includes national parks like the ones you named, like Yellowstone, which we have here, the amazing falls, Upper Falls from Yellowstone, and Yosemite National Park here in California, or Grand Teton National Park down in the bottom right. We have Zion National Park in southern Utah, and that great big hole in the ground, the Grand Canyon in Arizona, right? That's just some of the 433 units. But we also have, Jesse, can you go to the next slide? There are other units, not just national parks, in the national park system. There are national monuments, like where I'm at, Cabrillo National Monument, and there's two photos of Cabrillo in that picture. We'll let you see if you can kind of figure out which ones are Cabrillo, just from my background here. And then we also have national seashores, national battlefields, national recreation areas, national historic sites, and national preserves like Gettysburg and the Statue of Liberty, right? And the White House. So these are all places that are preserved and protected by the federal government of the United States because they are places that are really important to our nation's culture, our nation's history, or beautiful nature spots, right? Like Yellowstone. So they are protected by the government. Can you go ahead and go to the next slide, Jesse? So who protects these places? It's an organization called the National Park Service. And the National Park Service protects over 85 million acres of land combined. And they do that in a variety of different ways. There are national park rangers that are scientists, right? They work in the Science and Resources Management and Science Department to study these places, like I do, to then be able to understand them, to preserve and protect them. There are national park rangers that are in interpretation and education. So they educate visitors and people like yourself who are on calls like this about what national parks are and why it's important to preserve and protect them. There are rangers that are maintenance in the maintenance department. So they're the ones that take care of all the trails and other important infrastructure, which you can see here. They're building a trail up here at Yellowstone. And there's even law enforcement rangers, and those that are actually police officers, federal police officers that protect these places, protect people from damaging them or hurting them in any way. All right, so if you could go ahead and hit the next slide. So I mentioned a moment ago that national parks are public lands. Well, what does that mean? It means that they don't belong to corporations, like you see in the bottom right. They don't belong to tech billionaires. They don't belong to the government. Jesse, can we hit an arrow? And then the next slide, please. They belong to your parents and your guardians, your teachers, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, and other family members. They belong to your friends. They belong to you. You are the public. These are all of our lands. We belong in them and they belong to us. And as co-owners of these beautiful spaces, it's not just up to the National Park Service to preserve and protect those 85 million acres. They can't do it alone. It's up to all of us, right? So that they can be for everyone to explore and enjoy for years and years and years to come. So here comes your big question of the day. What would happen to all of our public lands if we didn't have the National Park Service and we didn't have you to protect it? What do you think would happen? I think we've got some examples here up on the screen.
We've got, let's see, if you guys want to chime in too, and these are examples. We've got some denuded landscapes here where people have come in and taken land that would have been otherwise potentially used for a national park. We see this not just in the United States and Canada, but truly around the world, and it sort of underscores why these places are so special and so worthy of protection. So again, we've got a lot of people echoing what we've got on the screen, Sam, but tell us a little bit more about it.
Right, exactly. If these lands weren't public lands that were set aside and protected by the National Park Service and the public saying, hey, we want to protect these spaces, big companies would come in and develop them for their own purposes, right? They would come in, there's lots of trees, right, in many national parks. So timber companies would love to come in and cut down those trees and use them. There's lots of oil, like in the Alaska Arctic Wildlife Refuge, right? They'd like to go in and drill those places. There's minerals in some of these places where mining companies would like to come and mine, right? And so these places would be destroyed pretty much forevermore if they weren't protected by organizations like the National Park Service and by people like you. And then there's one more example that I did want to show that is very relevant to where I work at Cabrillo National Monument. Jesse, you can go to the next slide. Here we've got two examples of San Diego. That's where Cabrillo National Monument is situated, right? So here we have the beautiful hillsides of Cabrillo. You can see, look at all of those plants, right? And then we have a shot of the city of San Diego, which is just right behind me on the other side of the water. As you can see, the city here, right, does not look at all like the hillsides of Cabrillo. This is the hillsides of Cabrillo. That's what all of San Diego used to look like before we built a city there. But we love to build our cities in beautiful places where Cabrillo is located. We love to build our hotels, our housing, right? Places where people can come and visit. And if we were to build cities everywhere there's beautiful places, there wouldn't be plants and there wouldn't be the animals that need those plants to survive, right? So it's really important. Jesse, if you could hit the arrow, please. It's really important to have the National Park Service and people like you speaking up for national parks so that we could have these epic places for conservation and for you to explore. And with that, I think we're ready to ideate, to brainstorm some ways that you can help. So what do you think, friends? How are some ways that you can help national parks remain strong and conserved?
Ooh, let's see. Again, you guys have been great in the chat. So Miss Kerr's class or DeWitt Middle School crew, everyone else tuning in on YouTube, we'd love to hear from you. You can visit them. Yes, that's a fantastic answer. One of the simplest things you can do for anything is just to sort of vote with your feet. Go and be involved, camp out, go for a day trek. Seeing these places helps the world recognize how valuable they are, and it helps sort of ensure that the people in power know that we do value them, we're excited about them, we want them to remain, we want there to be more such places. It's a fantastic answer. We can, anyone else want to chime in? DeWitt Middle School, I can come to you guys live. What do we think? How can you help national parks?
How else can you help them? Pick up trash. 7.
Pick up trash.
Pick up trash.
I love that.
Version. Very, very good. What else?
That's great.
I'm from this direction, so I'm looking at everybody.
Yep. Oh, we've got some great ones online too. Put up posters, make people more aware of the resources. So advocacy, pick up trash. Great answers, guys.
Absolutely. So Jesse, why don't we hit that arrow button? Yeah, so the first thing you said was visit them, right? So visit and support them. Not only when you go and show that you like it, but if any money that you spend while you're there actually goes back to the park, especially like at the entrance station when you pay to get into these national parks, right? It helps them run. So that's a great way to help. Let's hit the arrow again. You can share your experience and knowledge. So if you go and you visit or you learn about national parks and you're like, these places are cool and we want to protect them, you can share that information, like putting up posters, right? Educating other people about them and why they're important. Let's hit that arrow again, Jesse. You can actually even write letters to decision makers if you want, like congressional representatives. And your parents can show you how to do that if you're interested, or teachers. What's next, Jesse? Let's hit that. You said pick up trash. Guess what? You can volunteer in a national park. You can volunteer. If you're 18 or over, you can do it on your own. If you're under 18, you can do it as a family. So you could go pick up trash in a national park as a volunteer. Let's hit that arrow again one more time. And when you get older and you vote, you can vote for the people and the laws that will protect these spaces. That's what I always look for when I vote, every time I vote. Let's hit that arrow one more time, Jesse. You can become a Lorax and you can speak for the trees, right? Speak up for these beautiful places. And I believe there's one more bullet point. Guess what? You could even grow up to be a conservation biologist like me and work for the National Park Service or foundations that help the National Park Service like I run right now. Awesome job. I think we're done with our slides for today. And I did mention here that, you know, I am a conservation biologist. I study the wildlife that lives here so that I can protect them. And guess what? We have a special guest today for our Q&A portion. My colleague Brooke here has been very patiently waiting with our special guest. This is Wilson, the gopher snake. Hey, Wilson, say hi, buddy. Say hi to everybody. Here he
Hello,
is.
Wilson.
Whoa! Wilson is a native snake that lives here at Cabrillo National Monument. As I said, he is a gopher snake. They can get up to 8 feet in length. Whoa, big guys. Wilson's about 4 feet at this point. And he's a little bit older than most of you. He's about 13 years old now. They'll live up to 30 years. So hopefully we're only halfway through Wilson's life, we hope. We're taking really good care of him here. Who's got questions for Wilson and me today?
Let's dive in. Well, first of all, Sam, thank you so much for such a deep dive on parks. They're such special places. My first time going to Banff National Park in Canada was one of my favorite experiences of my life. I've been to the Everglades. I've been to national monuments and parks across the United States. It's one of the most incredible countries on planet Earth. So for our big American audience today, I hope you get the chance to visit them as well. And now we're going to dive in with questions. If you have any questions about national parks, about Wilson the Snake, about San Gabriel and Sam's work, we can't wait to hear from you. So please do start sharing in the chat. Our DeWitt Middle School crew, we're going to come to you guys in just a second so you can put your thinking caps on. Sam, a quick, hopefully easy one, maybe very hard one. What is your favorite park? No pressure at all.
That's, you know what, honestly, normally that would be a very hard one to answer. However, I actually grew up outside a national park, and that is really where my heart is. It's what started my whole journey as a conservation biologist. It helped sculpt me as a human being. And that national park is Yellowstone National Park. I grew up outside of West Yellowstone, which is at the west gate to that massive national park, which was actually the first national park in the world. It was formed in 1872. So yeah, I've got to go with Yellowstone for this one. But don't tell Cabrillo. Don't tell Cabrillo that Yellowstone's my favorite. Mum's the word.
I love that you mentioned Yellowstone and how cool to grow up near it, because like it is literally the gold standard for parks in the world. Like so many other countries on this planet took their inspiration from the United States as example with Yellowstone and built up national park systems. And so what a cool place. I can't wait to visit in person one day. Very, very fun. Miss Kirk's class, our Agincourt virtual grade 8s, they want to know, how do you track animals in parks? If we're working to try and conserve animals, is there a way that we follow them along?
That is a great question. So every time you study a different type of animal, you have to figure out what is the best way to study them without hurting them, right? Because we want to preserve and protect them, not hurt them. So it depends on the animal. For our reptiles and amphibians, like Wilson here, right? He is a reptile, he is a snake. We do something called pitfall arrays, and these are very simple traps. They're basically buckets that are buried in the ground up to their lip with a little fence that comes along and guides any animal that runs into the fence into the bucket. So we open those buckets up for a week out of every month, and we go back every morning and we see who have we caught in the bucket, and then we take information about those animals and record that year after year, decade after decade. Now, is that every single snake and every single insect and every single, salamander in the park? No, it isn't. But what it is a sampling of it. And from that sampling, we can actually infer what's going on at the population at large. It'd be impossible to collect every single snake here at the park, right? I'm only one person, right? I can't run off in the bushes all day long. I have other things to do. So you take a sampling like that. So that's one of the ways we do it.
I love that so much of field biology is like, we've got a fence and a bucket. Let's do this thing. It's a lot of building stuff together with the materials in hand. Sometimes there's some high tech involved, and certainly camera traps have done a lot for helping us track and understand wildlife on this planet. But a lot of it is just getting your hands dirty with some easy things to hammer together, which is very, very cool. Great question, guys.
Absolutely. Great question.
DeWitt Middle School, we're going to head to Ms. Maxwell's class. Come on in if you have a question for Sam. Hey.
Hi. I'm wondering, what is your job like a DNR agent? And if it's different, what's most of the differences?
Yeah.
So what's my job like in where? Sorry.
Compared to like a DNR agent? Do you want to elaborate on that?
Uh-huh.
Department of Natural
What that is.
Resources.
Ah, I see.
Okay.
Is that so? You have the Department of Natural Resources in Canada?
Perfect. Yeah. Well, so we got they're an American classroom, but Department of Natural Resources in general. If you want to elaborate on your daily work, Sam, would be perfect.
Absolutely. So for a number of years, almost 8 years, I was a biologist here at Cabrillo National Monument. And then just recently, I became what we call the executive director. So it's kind of the leader of a nonprofit that serves public lands like national parks here in San Diego County and beyond. So no 2 days are ever the same. Sometimes I'm out in the field helping other scientists collect data on various different animals, and that's usually done seasonally. So for example, when we study most of our birds, we do it during their migration, right? Their migratory period. Sometimes I am running education programs like this with Jesse, right? And teaching others about it. Sometimes I am doing the boring stuff like writing for grants, so getting money to support my work. I get to be really creative and create all kinds of cool projects. I love doing that. I love building things. I realize I'm kind of like a systems engineer at heart, right? I love to build things. Sometimes I'm hanging out with animals like Wilson and doing a snake talk, right? So no 2 days are the same, and that's how I like it. My job is never boring. I get to meet all kinds of interesting people, and I get to work with all kinds of cool wildlife in beautiful spaces and working to preserve and protect it. It's really, honestly, the best job in the world.
It seems like a pretty fantastic job. Not all of us get to hang out with a beautiful snake like that. And so we've got a question about Wilson finally. How big does Wilson get? Is this like the final size? Is there like the 20-foot snake in the future? What's the deal?
These guys can get up to 8 feet in length. So they can get pretty big. And unfortunately for gopher snakes, oftentimes people, if they look and they don't know their snakes very well, or they don't get a good look, they see them out and about and they think they're a rattlesnake because of their size, and their pattern is somewhat similar to that of many rattlesnakes around here. But he is not a rattlesnake. He has no venom, which is why I'm holding him like this, and not at all dangerous to people. And you can tell that in a couple of ways, right? First and foremost, no rattle, right? He's got a little skinny pointy tail. Second of all, he's got a little skinny head, right? That's not really any bigger than his neck. Rattlesnakes have really, really big heads to account for their enormous venom sacs in their mouth. So, and they also have slit eyes, so pupils that are slits. And Wilson, I don't know if you can see or not, but his are round. They're circular like a human's. And that's indicative of him being able to hunt during the day. So these guys are what we call diurnal, and they particularly like to hunt at dusk and dawn when it's not too hot out. So he needs those big round pupils to let in light so that he can chase down his prey during the day.
Super cool. As a person who wanted to be a herpetologist or someone who studied snakes when I was growing up, just getting to talk about them is very, very special. And I will note, if you stick around for our program right after this, we are going live with Jesse Rack to talk all about amphibians. So cool creatures of the undergrowth. Very, very fun follow-up in our If Then Ambassador series.
Love it. And Jesse, can I add one thing to that?
Please go. Yes.
So herpetology comes from the Greek root word herpes, which means a creeping thing. So basically, back when they were classifying animals way back in the day, they thought of all the things that were kind of creeping in the undergrowth, like amphibians and reptiles, should be lumped together. And they named it herpes or herpetology, right? Or herpetofauna. But what's funny is that they are not at all related. Like reptiles and amphibians, if you look at the tree of life, right, they are very distantly related from one another. But there you go, a creeping thing. So whenever you hear herpetology, you study creeping things, right?
Very, very cool. Thank you for that. As a person who, again, wanted to be that, I did not know that, so I appreciate it. All right, Ms. Hurst-Class, how do you train the animals to be friendly with conservationists? This could be true of Wilson. This could be true of animals in the wild. Tell us a little more about how we interact with the animals we're trying to save.
That's really great. So the short answer is we don't train the animals. So when we're out there studying these animals in the wild, they are wild animals. And you have to be trained on how to handle them safely so that you don't hurt them and then you don't get hurt, right? So only people who are trained to handle these wild animals should be picking them up and also have like a license to do so. Wilson is actually what we call an ambassador snake. So he lives with us. He is kind of a pet snake. He lives in the office so that we can bring him out and teach people about the wild snakes that live here at Cabrillo National Monument. So when you go visit a national park, do not be picking up any of those wild animals. They are not trained and they might bite you, poop on you, right? And you could also get in trouble for harassing the wildlife. You could hurt them accidentally, right? So we want to respect them at a safe distance when you see them out in the wild.
No better message than that. We talked about bats with Kristen Lear earlier in the week. Same deal. We were live with baby sloths at a rescue ranch, and you can speak to any biologist, conservationist. Most of their work is keeping them away from animals. It's making sure the animals feel wild, can be wild, can maybe be released back into the wild in some situations. And it's really, really important we highlight that. So I love that message. Thank you for that question, Ms. Kirst-Class.
Yeah, great question.
We're going to come back to you guys for one more live. Time flies when you're having fun, so we're going to let Sam get back inside and Wilson get back inside in just a minute. But if you want to come back in Michigan for one more question, you are good to go. Hey, guys.
Hey, Trace.
Okay.
He's coming. Hold on.
Take your time. No hurry.
Quick.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Is there acid factories?
Is there acid factories where?
Where she is.
Are there any infrastructure or things that are maybe affecting the ecosystem where you are, Sam?
That's a great question, right? So national parks are conserved spaces, right? But we also want people to visit them, like you, the public. So we do have to have some infrastructure at national parks. We need to have restrooms that you can use the restroom, right, and aren't going out in nature all the time. We have a visitor center so you can learn about where you're at so that you can protect it, right? We can give you important information. We also need to have food and a gift shop and those sorts of things so that you can enjoy your stay. So there are some buildings here. There's my office, for example, here at Cabrillo National Monument, but there's no factories or anything because, again, we're trying to do a good job of preserving and protecting these spaces. So really the only buildings that are here are like research areas and are for helping the public enjoy themselves and protect these spaces even more.
No better message than that. I really appreciate that. And the idea of not going outside in nature. Yes, use public restrooms when you're in a national park. Very, very important.
Yes.
Sam, one final question before we wrap up. How do we feed these animals? If we feed them, will they be dependent on us or lose their ability to hunt? So again, we're going to reiterate the message about leaving animals in the wild, but tell us a little more. Do we feed animals we run into in national parks?
We do not. And in fact, it is illegal. So if a law enforcement ranger saw you feeding these animals in a national park, you might get a ticket, right? And then have to pay a fine. Yeah, we do not feed them. We just let nature take its course. The only time we interact with them is if we are trying to maybe like move them off the road so they don't get hit, by a car, or if we're studying them, right? But again, the only people who are accredited, like rangers, can do that sort of work, okay? So you should never be handling or feeding any animals you see in national parks.
Really, really important. This is true in Canada as well for our audience there. Universal, actually. If you're in a national park, leave the animals alone. It's their space. You're just a visitor. Very, very cool.
And they get used to people, and then it's dangerous for them, right? Because they sometimes will attack people for their food. They sometimes get too close to people and get hit by cars, right? So it's safer for them and safer for you if you do not feed them.
Very, very nice. Sam, before we wrap up, I want to highlight again the Ambassadors of Conservation series. This program will be on our YouTube channel. So will the other 10 in the series. And I really can't encourage you enough to check out ifthenshecan.org and Sam's amazing work at the Ecologic Institute. So much great stuff going on in saving species on this planet. And I really encourage you to keep learning going when you're done this broadcast. Before we bring into it middle school and have our huge YouTube audience scream and yell at home as well, is there any final message you want to leave us with about parks before we say goodbye?
I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today and for caring about this planet and all the things that live there. I hope you go and visit a national park sometime soon and speak up like the Lorax for these very special places.
Very, very cool. I'm going to a national park literally in a week to Grosse Morne here in Western Newfoundland, one of my favorite places on planet Earth. So I hope you'll take it. Sam, as you know, to wrap up every broadcast, I'm going to bring in our class to say a big thank you and farewell. DeWitt Middle School joining us at home on YouTube. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now, everyone.